I mean,
now they're
I'm
on.
sad.
I do love that hat now. Just because you don't like it. Chill, bro, dude. All right, here we are.
Close.
No. That's my version of it. All right.
Okay.
If I'm gonna tolerate this shit on this show, Lindquist, then I'm gonna have my own version of
But
it. All right?
CBD is like a very famous acronym already. You can't go chill, bro, dude. It has to be DBC, dude, bro, chill.
Dude, bro, chill. Now, have you been told that by Jordan Klein? Is that why this has lived now on the show for weeks on end? Why did you turn that off, by the way?
Because it's not working. My AirPlay is not working, Eytan. Nothing is working.
Well, close the blinds.
No.
Okay? What's wrong?
Don't tell me what to do.
Okay.
How about that?
What's wrong with your neighborhood where
What's wrong with you as a person? I don't know.
Well, a lot. We don't have a time for that. What's wrong with your neighborhood at 9:17 in the morning where it's bad to close the blinds?
No, I need the sun. I need to be alert, alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic is what I need to be. and I need the sunlight. Otherwise, these blinds suck, by the way. Holiday Inn Express, shout out. You have to like pull the blinds shut and it's like a ugly gray color. Do you really want me to close the blinds for this? And you can see how bad it is?
Well, the reason why I was going to suggest you close the blinds is so we can see the sponsor, Odd Shopper, behind you on the TV screen, which you normally eloquently put up that we can all see throughout the show. Even Jordan gave a little Costanza. Yeah, okay. Are you ready to begin?
Yeah, let's go.
Dude, bro.
Cringe. Toad's cringe, bro.
It was total cringe. Now I just can't help it, but I still cringe as I say it. All right, so even the stream elements is up here getting it worked in on the chat. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. It's Eric, it's Eytan. Jordan is producing the three of us here, a staple for you Sunday morning, afternoon, wherever you may be. So we appreciate you always spending some time with us and hanging with us. And yeah, a bunch of games, 11. Now we have a FanDuel opt at the end of this slate here. So we are going to put together the 9 games ahead of time that add the couple of others. And no, I didn't get that Lindquist is staying at a Holiday Inn so much as he was comparing his blinds to the Holiday Inn, right?
Yeah. Well, it was a joke from 2 years ago, basically. Now, I don't know how long I've been doing shows. It's been a hot second, but people are like, where is this person? He looks like he's at the Ramada. He looks like he's at a Holiday Inn Express. And that's like, and no, I live in a fantastic apartment. Jordan Klein. Nice. No, it's a beautiful spot. It's a very nice, eloquent little place to hang out. Yeah. Get the thumbs up. Very nice. How much? But
I was going to say, the only issue I have with backgrounds now on this show is somehow Jordan removed the background of like people doing stuff in the back and like making food or ripping whatever. And next thing you know, it's like this wall with the Kobe jersey. I'm not hating the Kobe jersey, but that's my only beef with the backgrounds on the three of us now.
Everybody remember that Eytan has no respect for the dead. That's good.
I said even I have no problem with the Kobe thing.
He has no respect for the dead, and I have no problem with it. But it's not as good as what it was before.
Nor the living.
Not as good as what it was before. I'm just saying.
That's it. I'm just saying. All right, you're ready. Yeah, ripping something, Chef K. Do you want to get to Baltimore
Sandwiches.
Here? Yeah. When's the last time you've been to Baltimore?
Never. Actually, no. I was 15 years old. I was in Baltimore.
Well, the harbor may have been new to you then at that point.
So I went to Chevy Chase, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Baltimore. We went to a bunch of stuff, but I qualified for U.S. Junior Amateur when I was 15 and got
Potomac.
to play. Yeah, it was a Chevy Chase Columbia Country Club.
Yep.
Shout out. I finished bogey, double bogey, bogey, double bogey to miss match play by 1.
Still better than what Victor Hovland put together yesterday, so you can feel better about that, right?
Yeah, but it's hilarious because every time I go back and look at like junior tournaments, it's funny how many times, because again, you're 15, 16, you're starting to compete with up and coming PGA Tour guys. It's just fun to be like, oh, I beat so-and-so that week. Like Brian Harmon ended up dominating everybody that week. That was like his coming out party. He was the number 1 amateur in the world as like a 17 or 18-year-old out of Georgia and just ran amok at that junior am. But like there were so many PGA Tour guys underneath it that I beat. And I'm like, this is just a great feeling.
It is. And I definitely do not have that. Like I didn't beat somebody in Madden who's all pro right now in the EA circuit. So you have that. And that's why the golf clubs are in the background. I saw a question about that, Edwin, because this man played at a pretty high level. So
I did.
Absolutely.
Division I golf, Iowa State, Big 12 golf. People don't, but put some respect on the name. Can we do that?
Well, from a golf standpoint, you have to earn it today for the next 60 minutes on the diamond. Okay.
Jordan Klein's like, I'm not impressed by you. You shot like 3 over when we played, and you're trash,
right.
bro. You're trash, bro.
Oh, all right.
Hungover, couldn't hold the golf club. It's fine. Go ahead.
Baltimore. All right. Now, the Wire, the Harbor, that's probably the top two things. It's not the Orioles. So let's start here. Guardians in town, not the other name that Jordan refuses to put away with his hat that he's wearing today.
Terrible human being.
Let's start with the pitching matchup. And I'm sure that there's going to be an opportunity to victimize Baltimore a little bit here. But when you look at overall, Plesac's on the mound, Kramer's making that debut. So I don't know what you're really doing with the pitchers here, if anything.
Nothing. Not a whole lot to kind of be mined out of this one from a pitching perspective. If you could probably say this about a lot of guys on a lot of slates, and this is kind of no different, where if you get to some random shares, like looking at Dean Kremer, I have a couple randomly at 5,500. Look like a decent enough K percentage there, AAA, but I'm kind of going through some of the things now, and he just seems all right. He had a rehab assignment, yada, 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 60 pitches. I don't really know what to make of it, but he's 5,500. Anybody that's going to have positive leverage, who's cheap, who allows for you to just stack up bats, sounds great. But there's so many guys on the top end of this slate where I don't find it too cost prohibitive to get up to Gaussman, to Gallen, to Giolito, of course, who's going to be crazy popular as well. Yep. All those guys have so much upside. So you roster 5,500, dude, you're basically just saying, come on, bats, go.
Yeah, I think honestly, with all the ownership, people are rushing to get to Plesac because he's 500 cheaper than Kremer. What, I mean, why not? It's such an easy pivot to spend up the $500 and counter like 13% of the field, right?
In terms of what?
Getting to Kremer over Plesac as a P2 option.
Yeah, I mean, but
like, why would you go to Plesac? I get the matchup here, but look, you mentioned leverage. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the leverage. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, Zach Plesac's just a dude for me. 4.93 ERA, 1.36 WHIP. Going to throw his low 90s, mid 90s pitches. 83, I guess, last time out in 6 innings, but basically allowed for it to turn over to the bullpen in the last 3. He's just whatever. It's Baltimore. We know Baltimore is a team that surprisingly enough is better against righties than lefties. I will confirm such things here in 2.8 seconds when everything uploads on my end, but I feel pretty confident in saying I'm not going to play much Plesac.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that would be the point to go there. Plus, I don't know, like for me, the hierarchy of endings of Zach, CH is at the bottom.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's ZACK, ZAC, and then ZACH.
Oh no, but as a ERIC, Eric, with the CKs and the Ks hanging around, there are there's just stupid ways of spelling that I didn't know existed, because now we're getting to like ERICH I saw the other day and I wanted to drop kick it. Like, it's the dumbest name I've ever seen.
I love that you want to fight like inadvertent, or like, what do they call it? The non-existent things, whatever the term is that's escaping me. So let's look at Baltimore here against Plesac.
I will say one more thing about Kremer. AAA numbers. I mean, the guy had some ridiculous stuff through his 2 starts. Only 7 innings pitched. So we don't really know what this pitch count is going to look like. But if he got more pitches, if he got north of 65 pitches, this K rate has been out of control the last, at AA. He was striking out 22.5 Ks per 9 there in the 1 start, just 2 innings of appearance there, or 2 innings, like a relief appearance, basically coming back from his injury. And then you're looking at 7 total innings pitched. Yeah, I think it's more of a pitch count issue, because this guy might actually be really good.
ZAK, worse spelling. Yeah, I think ZAK is just above ZACH, Jordan.
Yeah, ZAK is not great. Cringe.
So here's
no.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. Plesac's going to be the obvious target because of the ownership that we have projected for him. You can gain some leverage there getting to a bunch of Baltimore. Cleveland, on the other hand, again, the obvious is, okay, we'll get to Kremer, but also you have a little more negative leverage really to deal with here. So I don't know how excited you are about either of these two opportunities compared to the rest of the slate.
Yeah, I'm okay getting to a little bit of Cleveland. They're negatively leveraged, but I think 4, 5, 6, like even the middle of this lineup, Andres Jimenez, Owen Miller, guys are starting to join the fray a little bit with the likes of Jose Ramirez, who's just been awesome. Josh Naylor hitting the ball really, really hard. Up and down this lineup, there's actually some bats that I'm a little bit more enthusiastic to be rostering, just knowing that this has been a team that's been popular. They've had a lot of value pieces just to be able to insert into lineups. They've been in decent spots, it feels like, for the last week. And so it's just a team that we've become a little bit more familiar with just as time has gone on. And this is Baltimore. The ballpark is definitely suppressing some of the power that we saw there in a very meaningful way. If you look at the Baltimore home road splits, that's really where you kind of see what's happening to this ballpark. It's definitely more of a pitcher's park, but it's 76 degrees, wind blowing across the field out to left. Really hard to hit it out of left there at this point in time. Definitely going to be more power friendly for some of the lefties up against Plesac, but there's really no lefties to be seen outside of Cedric Mullins in that lineup ever. So he's not even in the lineup today. So I'm just looking at Baltimore as meh. Cleveland, a little bit more enthusiastic. Jose Ramirez at 6K, always a pay up to get the position one in some spots, but now he's 21.3% at that kind of a number. Owen Miller, Andres Jimenez, those are kind of the two guys that I like getting to quite a bit more than the field.
All right, let's move to Philadelphia here. And timing is everything, right? You fire a manager before a series against a team that's lost 8 straight and being outscored like 2-1 coming into that. Now all of a sudden everything looks great and dandy for the Phillies. Sandoval on the mound, Gibson. I would think that there are some Ks to be had in this game with both lineups, Eric.
Yeah. Looking at Angels, which game are we talking about?
You're on it. You're right.
Okay, cool.
I mean, you could always look to the side Joe Girardi.
I could, but I would rather make sure that everything is updating. It's going really, really slow on my end. I'm not sure. Hopefully my stream is good, but good Lord. It's just...
Wait, say it. What?
Don't do that to me. You're trolling. You're just trolling. You're a troll.
Dude, bro.
Chill out. Sandoval, he's okay to get to. Kyle Gibson, I think has just been a pretty decent pitcher. The 21.9% K percentage really kind of the only thing about it. And that kind of gets elevated. These Angels are striking out at a pretty profound clip compared to what you would expect. Because in years past playing DFS, the Angels are always a team that it's like, oh, well, if the K percentage were higher, maybe have some interest, but there's potency in the lineup. But yeah, Trout, Ohtani, Walsh, Ward, all of the really, really good hitters, they're all north of a 22% K percentage, as opposed to some other spots like Acuna strikes out a lot, Buxton can strike out a lot, but there's a lot of other top end players that just don't strike out that much. These guys do right now. And you add Marsh, you add Stassi, if he's going to be in that lineup, 28.4% K percentage. Andrew Velasquez, 28%. He's just so bad at hitting. There's really nobody that's going to be suppressing that K percentage. So Kyle Gibson, probably more opportunity for Ks here than maybe other people might see on the surface. He's very, very popular. He's 7K. But you talk about Plesac and his 13.4%. It's 2K more to get up to him on DK, but I don't really care. He's just a drastically better play, in my opinion. Is there home run potential? These Angels, I sent the screenshot in our group chat yesterday. I don't know what's going on with them. They are on a horrendous run of games. Yeah, Jordan Klein hanging his head with his horrible hat, as he should be as an Angels fan.
Well, that's the thing. He's hanging his head with a now defunct Indians hat.
Yep. Well, so, now you can't say it. Don't do it.
Are you sure I can't say that?
It's just more fun to troll around Jordan about it. Okay. Come on.
I thought that it was some sort of violation that now I'm going to be brought in by HR.
You just shouldn't do it anyway.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. No,
I don't know why the Redskins were allowed to have their name as long as what they were. That is absurd to me.
Well, yeah.
Like Cleveland Indians, if it's
still say it though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
it hasn't been removed from your mind.
No. Just saying that was the worst one by far. If there was any team that needed to change, it really was that.
If we go back, even
that organization is just trash.
All right. Well, let's move to the bats here. And I think, honestly, we talked a little bit about what's going on with the Angels. It's just so hard to ignore that, especially with Gibson, who K's may not have been there, but he's pitching decent to well. So I don't know what you want to do overall with the Angels. I like the Phillies a lot today, and it's not just the homerism. The weather is great. The bat has been moving against this pitching here. Overall, at least in this series, there is a sense of like relief in that clubhouse. I can tell you that personally. So I love the Phillies as a stack, and I know Sandoval is a guy that they can get to a little bit, but I guess what do you do with an Angels team that has just been so damn bad as well?
I mean, you got to roster a little bit of them. There's
Yeah,
too many good hitters
them
at the top. You can't ignore Ohtani, Trout, 5,100 and 4,900 not garnering attention right now. Not garnering enough attention right now. Specifically, the hard thing with the Angels is the back half of the lineup is so bad that there really aren't words for it. We'll see if Taylor Ward ends up being in this lineup here, but the guy was leading the entire league in WRC plus for the first 2 months of the season, 2.5 months of the season. He's down to 4,200. You have Ohtani at 5,100, sub 15%. You have Trout sub 10%, sub 5K. You have Jared Walsh at 3,500. I find it to be a team that's very, very appealing going up against Kyle Gibson today. I do like Philly on the other side. I think the field kind of likes Philly on the other side. From what we've seen the last couple of games. They had 5 in the first and then kind of faded towards the end of that one yesterday, but 76 degrees, not exactly just prolific weather anywhere here today, but it's a decent enough hitting ballpark. I'm okay getting to all of these top end guys. We'll see. Matt Duffy led off yesterday. I doubt he does against a righty here, but it's been kind of confusing to me that Joe Madden hasn't been having him lead off with his over 300 batting average, setting the table for the likes of Ward, Ohtani, Trout, but that's a different conversation. And it's just kind of math. But the back half of this lineup has been so horrendous in Marsh. Whoever ends up catching, probably going to be Max Stassi today here. But Andrew Velasquez is unrosterable. Tyler Wade is unrosterable. So it's basically 7 guys that you're looking at, maybe 6.5 from the Angels side. But they are definitely, anytime you see Trout under 10%, under 5K, you should automatically have alarm bells go off.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of how bad it's been individually for him and the team. But you're right. I mean, look, we talk about this all the time. DFS, betting, just stocks, what have you. You catch something on a downswing with the anticipation that you can get a really good deal on it. And such is life with both Trout and I imagine a lot of guys on that squad. All right, so let's move to Pittsburgh. The lowest projected run total on the board, the Pittsburgh Pirates hosting the D-backs. Now did we talk about Philly on the other side? Yeah, you just
said they're really low owned, and you should probably roster a lot of these guys. You said that the field is
getting to them, and we talked.
No, the field is not getting to them.
No, they're not really at all. And I think that it's disrespectful. And look, I can tell you, it's a hot 77. All right, it's not humid, like bearing down on you. This ball is going to move today, Lindquist, and I think it's disrespectful that only 2.5% of the field is getting to them projected.
But yeah, Patrick Sandoval has been really good at suppressing power this season, 36.4% hard hit percentage. A 318 expected slugging is elite kind of stuff and preventing power. But the walk rate at 10.8%, it is, and everything is going poorly here for the Angels as it stands right now. Whenever they face a lefty, you see really low ownership on Harper and Schwarber, but Schwarber's leading off. Harper is good against everybody. Neither of those are concerns. Castellanos is eventually going to start raking once again. If you're going to want to have all of that, you can. Alec Boehm is 1% owned. That's wrong. Rhys Hoskins, sub 5%. It's just a team that I'm going to be over north of the field on pretty easily.
Quick question on this game before we get out of here. On to Pittsburgh. TDID forever. Is this a spot where we take Trout more as a one-off?
I'm never mad at a sub 10% owned Trout as a one-off. I love that. You can play Ohtani. If Ward's in the lineup, that's why the lineup's not out yet. It's starting in an hour, but we don't have the lineup purely because we're waiting on what's going to happen with Ward if he can actually get into the lineup. Nope, he's on the IL here. 10-day injured list. That came in this morning. That came in literally 30 minutes ago. So that's, he will not be in the lineup. So they're probably just seeing, is Joe Adell going to be recalled? Yeah, he did. Okay. So they're going to see if Joe Adell can get off the plane and play baseball today at 2,400. I love this guy. I think he's just got crazy good power numbers. He just needs to figure it out here at the big league level. But Joe Adell, if he's going to be back into that lineup, I'm going to have a lot of interest in that. I didn't see that he got recalled. That came through half an hour ago. Wonder if the plane will be touching down because, yeah, he got recalled literally this morning. That will be fascinating.
Okay. Pittsburgh now. Low total at 7.5, but more importantly, the lowest projected run total across the board for the Pirates. D-backs on the other side. And what should not be lost in this pitching matchup, sir, is not one, but two different spellings of the name Zach. So I don't know how you're going to prioritize this, but I can tell you one thing. I don't trust anybody like Zach Thompson.
You don't trust anybody like Zach Thompson?
No, I'd rather go Zach Gallen than Thompson.
Oh, yeah,
on
absolutely.
Our hierarchy of Zachs.
Yeah, Zach Thompson, 17.3% K percentage. You have to
backed up by the numbers.
It's backed up by the numbers. Zach Gallen, 24.5%. I've just always liked Zach Gallen a lot. I like him and Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly more as a real life pitcher, but Zach Gallen can get things done. And against this Pirates lineup that you're basically fading Hayes and Reynolds, Vogelbach back is definitely a good addition. Batting third here today. Travis has been disappointing for the most part, even though the hard hits are there. This is kind of a spot where I want to play a lot of Gallen, and I might have a tiny bit of Pittsburgh here on the other side, the top half of that lineup. Not a lot because there isn't a ton to mine out, but Brian Hayes is a major league hitter. That guy is going to be fantastic for years to come. Brian Reynolds, we've got a better track record than we've seen at least this season with this 38% hard hit percentage. And Vogelbach, yeah, one, two, three, those three specifically. I'm very happy to get to some of it. Sawinski, I think, has been getting by a little bit, but not really that appealing of a roster. Cal Mitchell at the bottom half, yeah, it's Zach Gallen side mainly. I just like him a lot, and I'm usually over the field on him just about every single slate. He's only negative 3.5% over on DK. Looking at the FanDuel slate, he's 9,800 flat ownership, basically 7% owned, about appropriate. But that's when you kind of want to pull the trigger because you know that Giolito, Gausman, Lauer, not Lauer, there's positive leverage, and we'll get to him. But Kevin Gausman specifically is garnering so much attention, and Lucas Giolito so much attention. Save the 400, the better matchup being against Pittsburgh. I'm pretty excited to roster Gallen on FanDuel today.
All right. So the other side of that is you have an Arizona stack right now that's kind of like middle of the road projected. They're losing leverage because more people are getting to them versus where we have them projected. So if you do like Arizona, if you are getting to Thompson today, are you just going to cap and probably get a little bit lower than that 8.4 we have projected?
Yeah, there's no way that I'm going to be over the field on Arizona stacks at 8.4% in this ballpark. That's against Zach Thompson, Zach Thompson, you said compared to the other one, Zach Thompson at least is suppressing hard hit. He's suppressing some of those some of the power numbers there. Still a 468 expected slugging, so it's not all roses, but for the most part, Zach Thompson's been a serviceable pitcher here. I don't probably want to go out of my way to go pick on him. It's just a team that's garnering a lot of attention because of the catcher position. And this is something that I continually am running into. And you guys need, if you have Awesemo Plus, which you should have Awesemo Plus, head to the top batters tool. Start taking advantage of some of the information. Guys like Sean Zahn, Alex Baker that are updating that. But I know it's Sean Zahn's baby. And you look at the catcher position, and Dalton Varsho is garnering so much attention. But he has a sub 15% chance to hit a home run in this spot. Sal Perez, Gary Sanchez, Mike Zunino with better home run numbers for this main slate. So I'm looking at the positional stuff that we have over there. Even guys like Danny Jansen batting ninth here, 14%. If you're looking for the upside at the positions, that is the easiest way to look at the table and get an idea of, man, should Dalton Varsho at this number be 20+% owned like he is showing on Cruncher? I would say no. That's like the first guy that when I'm on a show, I just basically capped him this morning. Normally I'd be able to run it out in a certain way and know that I'm going to get a lot less of Varsho, but I just capped him at 10%. There's no way that I want to be at the field or above that kind of a number, especially at a catcher position that there might be some better options. Alejandro Kirk in that same lineup batting higher for Toronto. Guys like that maybe they're around the same ownership, but all things being considered, Dalton Varsho should not be 20% owned on this slate.
All right, so we can move to Toronto after that, right? With Arizona, because Pittsburgh, you kind of referenced enough, and you're shaking your head yes. So I'm not gonna push back on that. Let's go to Toronto, Minnesota. Pretty thick dog here on the road. So I know you've got your prize pick stuff all in order here, but anything that you like, Minnie, stealing anything? This is your old stomping grounds, or at least your old team.
Huh?
Well, aren't you a Twins fan?
I am a Twins fan, but I'm not today because Kevin Gausman is just a smash for DraftKings purposes. And I get that he's going to be popular. He's 10-2. I get it. But this is the favorite to win the American League Cy Young. He's taking everything that he did last season with San Francisco. He's immediately implementing it to Toronto. He's so good. And I don't really know what to do. Like, I can't roster Twins on the other side as much as I might want to. They don't even have Buxton in the lineup, basically punting this game. Hopefully, can win some kind of a low scoring game. Devin Smeltzer on the other side strikes out nobody, but is suppressing power in the same way. He's just trying to be a serviceable, good real life pitcher to a certain extent. We'll see if that can maintain, because I think he's not as nearly as good as some of the results have been. Maybe not in a K perspective, but results in terms of winning baseball games. But Kevin Gausman, 2.5% walk rate. 28.7% K percentage. He never kills himself, never puts extra guys on base, never really giving you the run support on the other side. So there's certain times when I'm looking at contrarian stacks and trying to be like, oh, well, I can roster some on the other side. I am not going to be rostering this iteration of the Minnesota Twins lineup today. I just can't. If I had a couple shares of Larnach, maybe that would be the one guy from the left side going up against Gausman. I might have some, but even that, I'm just removing them. I'm just removing them from the pool. Kevin Gausman's the main priority here. It's always a question. Oh, are you going to be over 40.5%? Yeah, I'm going to come in somewhere around that, maybe a little bit more, but it's the best pitcher, the best spot on the slate. No Buxton in the lineup. Everything is just kind of standing out to roster as much Gausman as you want.
Okay. And look, the only counter to that and it's a may here, be that nearly half of the field is getting the Gausman. So even if you just are at 1.0% and a little under weight to the field that we have at 1.5%, I mean, aren't you just doing a small amount of due diligence? I understand that Buxton's not in this lineup, but how many times has the overwhelmingly obvious thing actually come to fruition in this shit?
Yeah, it's more than you would think. I mean, are you thinking of a specific instance where you?
No. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that Gausman's going to blow up. I'm not saying that 40.5% of the field is going to be off. What I'm saying though is, why not take 1% of that chance and still be underweight to this field at 1.5? Like, I'm not even saying being overweight at 2.5 or 3% to Minnesota, Eric. I'm just saying, why not take at least 1% of that ownership share and take that small possibility?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play 80% Kevin Gausman, 90% Kevin Gausman, go ahead and have some hedged twin stacks on the other side. But they have a 2.5% top stack potential. That's third worst. I mean, you have Pittsburgh, which, 2.1% against Zach Allen. I'm just kind of primarily looking 1, 2, 3 hitters that can actually do things. Tampa Bay against Giolito, that makes sense to everybody as well in Tropicana. But Minnesota, just 2.5% against Kevin Gausman. I will say the ballpark's decent. Obviously, you get to the Rogers Center, and that's an all right spot to be hitting. But it's not just no Buxton. It's no Kepler. It's no real kind of opportunities where Kevin Gausman has shown no cracks in the armor. And I feel pretty confident in saying that, if you wanted to, if Minnesota is going to work out, it's probably due to failure in a lot of other spots or one individual batter going completely ham. So maybe you could probably have in 150 a couple shares if you're really jamming Kevin Gausman. I'm going to be above the field looking like a little bit more. I got 46% in my last run here. I just wanted to update everything to make sure I wasn't talking out the side of my mouth. But Kevin Gausman is just too good for me to want to try to get too cute. I'm just kind of trimming the fat, even on a 9-game slate. And I think Minnesota is a pretty easy way to do that.
All right. And it makes sense here. So I guess the flip side would be how much you're just going to work Smeltzer with Toronto, knowing that you don't have that ton of negative leverage, right?
No, it's a team that I'm expecting some things from.
It's a 1-to-1 ratio we have. Sorry.
Yeah. Devin Smeltzer is, I don't understand how he's been even serviceable from the left side here. This fastball has a little bit of movement, but I mean, he is a literal 90-mile-per-hour average fastball guy. He has no juice on anything here going up against a Toronto team that has a 5.3 implied run total. So Vegas is on board and seeing that there's going to be offense to be had You're going to have ownership going their direction on certain guys, but it feels like a team that I expected to have a ton of negative leverage coming into today, and it really hasn't come to fruition. Cincinnati, Houston, Arizona, Cleveland, all more popular in terms of negative leverage. So Toronto's a team that I'm actually landing on a little bit more. I do think that Devin Smeltzer is not nearly as good as the real life results that he's been able to somehow surmise in the early going of the season. He has a 1.5 ERA, a 0.83 whip. Do we really think that this is going to be something that's sustainable for him? I don't believe so with his arsenal. So he's faced Detroit, Kansas City, and Cleveland, 4 divisional opponents that all suck. They are all terrible. So Devin Smeltzer facing the first real good baseball team in a while. Toronto is one of the larger stands I have on today's slate. I have a ton of this team.
All right. So from from Pittsburgh, Toronto. All right. Now Cincinnati. And as expected, there's going to be a lot of action. High projected run totals. Reds over 5.5. Nats sitting there a little over 4, but still looking at the total and just projected runs in this game. So we've got Corbin versus Matt Reynolds. And I saw the chat a little back and forth on whether or not it's a Corbin day. For you?
Never a Corbin day.
Never?
It is never
now I have
a
to
Corbin
see who
day.
it was. There were a lot of back and forths on Corbin.
Why? No, we're not rostering Patrick Corbin.
You're not rostering him at all. So you're going to get to.
I have 3% Patrick Corbin.
Okay, well that's more than you did for. Was it No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was Gallon, wasn't it?
I have so much Gallon.
No, Thompson. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Thompson. I have 0 Thompson.
And you have you have a little more creamer, don't you?
You gotta have some creamer in your coffee.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah, you gotta have a creamer. Whoa! I see what you did there. That was an intelligent joke. That one went over Jordan Klein's head.
Jordan is just totally phased out of the show. Like, I don't know.
He's living the dude bro chill life. He's got his sleeves up.
He's like these guys. Let these guys hang themselves right here. Like, I don't want no part of this shit. Life. He doesn't have sleeves up. He's got a tank top on.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, why don't you have a tank top? You're in the same state.
I just rolled up the sleeves so Jordan Klein feels more comfortable and willing to interact on this show. Let's go.
That's fair.
Come on, baby.
Look, I can't knock you for bringing Jordan in. All right, trying to at the very least.
See, I'm not a tank top guy. We're putting the sleeves back.
That's fine.
I'm more comfortable.
Artie Van Housen's like, bring back the bots, the sex bots. Only Jordan can bring the sex bots out.
I love the extra words at the beginning. Let's start a poll on what we think the words will be after it goes, because it's like XYZ sex bot, and then it's always like jerk off exclamation mark, something like that.
Yeah.
What do we think the words are going to be that try to sell you on the sex bot?
I think you would have to do like a multi-bet market where there's like 3 or 4 different options with different words put together.
I would say today I think the chalk is live girls. That's the chalk, because it always has like live girls, or it has like something like that. It feels like that's been one that routinely shows up. But now they're starting to get more intricate with like what they want to have on the front end. Yeah, can we talk baseball now? We can in a second. This is important though, because these bots are taking over YouTube. We need to figure out some kind of a way to identify like the trigger words or what they are, so that we can make money in this imaginary market. And I think, what would be a really good guess for today? I feel like, live girls is the chalk though.
Booty has upside. I like that.
Booty has upside. I do think that there's some definite upside there. Big booty.
TDI forever. See, now you're going to get people flagged for their own comments here. Terry McBride is giving his suggestions.
Easy. This is great.
This is amazing. All right, Cincinnati, Washington, high projected total as expected out there in Cincy. Weather and nothing an issue, of course. So let's look at the pitching matchup with this total and knowing what we have in the background. We're not getting to Corbin. We're not getting to Reynolds, right?
It's just so hard. I mean, look at these baseball games that they've played: 8-1, 8-5, 10-8. I mean, this is what this ballpark does. And you get a pitcher like Patrick Corbin in there who gives up hard contact across the board, 45.2% hard contact, 525 expected slugging, doesn't miss bats, 18.4% K percentage, and walks guys, 9.2%. It is bright blue across the board. it is impossible for me to imagine that I'm going to roster any Corbin today. But Castillo on the other side, I always roster Castillo. I mean, I have such a soft spot in my heart for this guy. 26.7% K percentage. That is all you really need to know, because you get anybody like that up against a Washington Nationals team that, yes, has some guys in Soto and Cruz that have massive power. Lane Thomas is starting to do just random things. He had 3 home runs 2 nights ago for 4, 5, 6. So now he's up to 6 on the season. So we'll see if that can maintain, but he's batting second. These guys on the other side up against Castillo, though, I think there's just a lot of strikeouts to be had for him. And he's a pitcher that I've always believed has some of the best stuff in the league, gives some low contact. So that's something, under a 7-degree launch angle that can't really be understated. Getting to that ground ball is going to be such a big part of pitching in the Great American Small Park. So Luis Castillo, still 29, still got some really, really good stuff, even though he occasionally gets hit up. I'm taking shots on Castillo every single time.
All right. So are you going to kind of have a little bit of Washington just to kind of balance that out, knowing that, this total here? I mean, look, Cincinnati's going to have a little more negative leverage, but you mentioned that as far as Washington as well. So you're getting to both of these stacks. It's just what you're doing to kind of maneuver through the negative leverage with Cincinnati. But to your point about Washington that you're about to make, you have a lot of opportunity here to work the Nets.
Yeah, so it says 6.5% ownership share, but if you go to Cruncher, all you have to do is look at Juan Soto, who's 20.2% owned, and no other batter is higher than 6.4% owned. And somehow it's a 2,600 Luis Garcia. Too many Luis Garcias playing baseball. And stop screwing up mine. Gundacker, I know, is on Twitter complaining about it. Every time you import these names and you're trying to do your own sheets, there's like 14 Luis Garcias. So we need to make them, like Luis Garcia 1, 2, 3. Like I need to have some kind of a qualifier to make sure that I don't get the wrong Luis Garcias in different spots. It's incredible how many there are. But Lane Thomas, he would be probably the guy in the 2-hole, 2,900, sub 6%. I bet he's a little bit higher on than that if I had to guess. Josh Bell now sent down to the 5-hole. It's all right with Nelson Cruz. I did expect some positive regression. Good to see him finally add to the home run tally. It's been a while, it feels like, but decent enough back-to-back outings against Mike Minor, Tali Mali last night. 22 and 13 DraftKings points. I still expect him to be all right going long-term. So I'm probably going to be over the field on that guy. Just Nelson Cruz is my boy, but it's not too hard. I doubt I'm going to stack up Juan Soto any Washington stack without Juan Soto. That's one way to get completely different because nobody is going to be stacking them up without Soto. So maybe I should kind of think about that, but he's the best hitter on this team, one of the best hitters in baseball. Hard to believe that if they go nuts against Castillo, he's not joining the party.
All right. So from there, a little bit less of an opportunity, at least on the total for the Rays and White Sox. Tighter line, of course, but let's move to Tampa.
Yeah. Can we finish with the red side? Because they're one of the most owned offenses, if not the most owned offense. The Reds. No, not really. Not at all, actually. Nick Senzel, Brandon Drury, Tommy Pham. Oh, well, yeah, no, I said that we're not going to roster Corbin, but also we can't be rostering 25% Nick Senzel. We can't be rostering 25% Brandon Drury. Tommy Pham up to 12 or at 12%, 5,400. He's kind of in a spot where you have so many different outfielders that maybe he's kind of your path to getting a little bit different. A lot of these expensive outfielders garnering a little bit more attention than him. So I'm okay getting to Pham and having him a part of it, but it gets really, really thin. And even guys like Kyle Farmer's up to 4,800. Good Lord. Alberto Mora, 2,500. That's kind of your salary savings, but everybody's going to add him or Aristides Aquino to the back end of that lineup to reduce some of the ownership. It's just not a very appealing team at their current ownership. They're the second most popular team. They're not a great offense, top to bottom. A couple guys you can grab shares of, but a team that I'm going to roster a little bit of Pham. I'm going to be undercutting the field pretty drastically with the rest of them.
Have you ever smacked anybody over fantasy sports?
Not at all. No.
Because because Jordan Klein didn't roster somebody on the season long.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the job at this point in time. I used to have stuff like that affect me all the time where I'm like, because I try very, very hard to make everybody money. I want it to be a community effort. Yeah, I want people to succeed. And I take what I do very seriously, but there comes a point where you have to just kind of let it go. And if people are going to smack you up or try to talk shit about you at a certain point, it's like, well,
yeah,
you're probably going to be unhappy. But if it's not me, you're going to be unhappy about something else.
What do you think the odds are that there's anybody out here who has never smacked nor been smacked in their life? Like I have been both, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Fam and Jock, obviously, that was just a brilliant thing. I mean, I've definitely been smacked. So there's that. I mean, it's hard to place organized sports at any high competitive level, even high school basketball or even golf. Yeah, especially golf. We really get after it, brother. It's just basically the freaking WWE.
You stepped on my line, brother.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Smashing beers. Let's go.
All right. You want to smash some beers in Tampa? You're going to have to be drunk. Well, this is a pitching matchup. Giolito, Yarborough. Let's look at that. Let's start with Giolito, right? I mean, that's pretty much the lead here. And looking at if it's leveraged to try to work around or just where he is overall on the board, what are you really doing here? You're not getting much really help at all from the field. He's over 35% projected owned. He's our second highest top pitcher. So you have to get to him.
Yeah, he's pretty good against Tampa Bay here in this spot. The ballpark is great. We saw last time out that the home run showed up again, 2 homers against Toronto. That's going to happen with Toronto, in Toronto at the Rogers Center. That's going to happen to a lot of pitchers. They're going to have rough outings in that spot with this offense becoming more potent. Gideon Jansen, Alejandro Kirksman was batting phenomenally well. There's a lot of guys in that lineup top to bottom that are going to create issues. So kind of a write-off for me for Lucas Giolito. He had been really, really good up until that point. The strikeouts were still there. 8 strikeouts in the Toronto outing. I mean, he's just a really, really good pitcher. The 1.37 whip kind of is surprising to see attached to him. Hasn't been as sharp this season, but if he's going to give up hard contact, you might as well give up hard contact in this ballpark. That suppresses, a lot of that power. 44.6% hard hit percentage on the season, 461 expected slugging. But God, it's a 33.3% K percentage. He should not be sub 10K. It's kind of a price situation. I think it's very fascinating looking at what to do on FanDuel because Kevin Gausman is garnering so much attention over there.
Good point.
And then you get Giolito, who I could just see myself flipping those 2 pieces of ownership, but getting a little bit lower down to Gallon at his current ownership is going to kind of be the path I take a little bit more for FanDuel purposes. So Lucas Giolito, I'll probably be just a tiny bit over the field on here for FanDuel. I'll be a little under on Gausman and then Gallon being a little bit larger stand. But considering they're all tightly bunched between that 9,800, 10-2 area, it's a spot you really got to get right. And with Lucas Giolito, if you chose to go that route and just jam, considering he's lower owned than Gausman, I would not blame you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Valdez and Lauer coming up as well, as you mentioned there. But looking at it on FanDuel, not even that it's the better option, just maybe more workable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So,
Yarborough, he's just not a good fantasy kind of pitcher, 16.9% K percentage, but he suppresses power in such a meaningful way. And these White Sox, this lineup is not very good. I mean, Luis Robert back in the mix, but no Moncada here after he got back. They got Mendick leading off here today. It's just, I mean, you look at this lineup, Jose Abreu, get by him. Luis Robert, get by him. It's pretty appealing to try to get to a little bit of, I don't want to recommend a guy too much who's got around a 17% K percentage on any slate, that isn't like a 3-gamer, 4-gamer, but I do see a path to Ryan Yarborough at 6,800 actually being serviceable. So I'm definitely going to be over that as an SP2 option. He's 1.5% leverage. He's coming in with 6.2% ownership. I'll be a little bit over that.
All right. So with what's going on with Giolito and so much of the field projected getting to him, and I just updated it. So now it's north almost at 37% we have on DK. First question would be, what are you doing with the Rays more so than anything?
Arcathelza, you didn't listen to me. I was talking about Giolito's last outing getting lit up by Toronto. Come on now. Get back with me. Let's do it. What were you saying? Now tell me one more time.
No.
Please.
I'm not.
Please.
You're
saw
too
the comment.
busy talking to Arcathelza.
I was upset. You didn't listen to me. I was talking about Giolito's last outing where the lineup's getting better for Toronto. Whatever.
No, I don't feel like I should have to repeat myself.
I would like for you to. I don't really have interest in either offense here, so we can probably just move on anyway. Go ahead.
How about this, by the way? This is a perfect segue to this chat comment, Eric Lindquist.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of I'm aware, EMAC, that I also just went back on what I just said because I wasn't paying attention because Arcathelza wasn't listening to me. So I got upset about that. But I don't care. I don't have to listen. I have to talk. So there you go. Go ahead.
TTID forever. Eric, in the basketball show, you seem more upbeat. In the baseball shows, you seem more agitated. Why is that? Well, I can tell you the obvious.
Shows are at like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I'm up at 6:30. I'm up at 5:30 pretty routinely. We had like 7 a.m. baseball shows, or I did the NBA strategy show. It just kind of depends. And also might be something to look at because Sundays I have a feeling I'm the most ornery when I'm on shows with you.
I was going to say that's probably a common denominator. But I like ornery Eric. I get more out of ornery Eric. Don't you? Look at that. Cheers. Salute, as they say. All right, so yes, everybody needs an IPA. We should be drinking during the show. Are we allowed to do that? Like, I'm not saying drinking to get drunk, but, Sunday morning where you are, can't you have like an IPA open and nurse it for an hour and a half?
I could, but also that's really aggressive, 10 a.m. on a Sunday. Like, I've been known to partake in some random, the kegs and eggs back in the college days, some 6 a.m., 7 a.m. pregame for a 10 a.m. football game or 11 a.m. football game at Iowa State. But I can tell you, an IPA sounds like the last thing on planet Earth that I want right now at 10 a.m. Like,
by the way, whoever had F Tinder cashed a huge
bet. What a ticket. What a ticket.
Whoever had F Tinder just cashed a major futures ticket. Was that Jordan?
Jordan Clyde.
Whoa.
Jordan
Wait
Clyde.
a second here. This is
plus
a show bet. We're all taking
baby.
credit for this. It's amazing. Carlos, I haven't drank in the morning like I haven't drank in the afternoon probably in 10 years.
Oh, F Tinder for the win. Man, what an unbelievable. First of all, I think that this is a fun game going forward. I think it's how we can really lean in to the enjoyment factor of the sex bots, because God forbid any of us click on that link.
I agree. No, don't click on that link, please. But you're right. This is now a weekly thing. So long as you and I and Jordan are together, God willing, we have to do this every week. I credit you. Man. First off, Jordan hit the bet, so credit him, but credit you for this concept. It's not often we're doing that on the show.
I'm an innovator. Some might say that I'm the innovator of my generation.
At times. All right.
They don't say that.
Miami, San Fran. I know you want to talk about sex spots for the next 27 minutes, but maybe you don't. Jordan does. He's all high off his big win now.
What a W. Honestly, I didn't see a W coming down this early in the day.
No. All right, Miami. Let's look at the Marlins and the Giants here. Sneaky comeback for Miami. I know that because I had the Giants on the money line yesterday, but that being said, a little stupid play here. Let's look at the pitching matchup here first, see what you're going to do, and then we can talk a little bit more about where there might be some sneaky opportunities in a stack or even mini stack.
Yeah, so going through Braxton Garrett, 26 innings pitched so far in AAA this season, 5 total starts, the really low K rate, 7.27 K per 9 over on the old Fangraphs.com. Pretty low walk rate, but giving up home runs at a decent enough clip, over 1 per 9. I guess that's pretty low. 14.3% home run to fly ball rate. Looks like he's doing his best to suppress some of that power. 4.13 xFIP though. I'm all right getting to some San Francisco on the one side of it. Braxton Garrett is kind of a weird guy to think about rostering at 6,200, but he's got a top 2 value percentage around 11.6%, 4% top 2 percentage. I have like 2 or 3 shares in 150 of him and whatever against San Francisco, but I do think San Francisco 4.4 implied run total, a little bit higher than you might expect in this ballpark, but that just kind of speaks to Braxton Garrett isn't that good. And there's definitely opportunity for some pretty cheap bats in Austin Slater batting leadoff. Luis Gonzalez left on left, 3,600 there for him in the middle of this lineup. No Jock isn't fun. I would roster Jock against anybody right now. This Jason Vossler guy has a new home run alert every single day now, so maybe that just continues. He's 2,700 at the same position as Evan Longoria, though, and that's terrible. I definitely prefer Longoria 1-for-1 there, but this is a pretty hefty little run total for San Francisco in this ballpark. So I think San Francisco is one of the teams that I'm just rostering a lot more than the field. They're the most positively leveraged team in the DraftKings top stacks tools. So it's a team I have some serious interest in.
Yeah, you mentioned the leverage right there, and that alone, just because of so little ownership, just looking at the difference on FanDuel here, you're gaining a little, pardon me, you're losing a little more leverage there because the ownership has increased. Almost like people recognizing that there's a little bit better opportunity there on FanDuel. So to your point, it may be just more of a splash on DK overall, and then just kind of working a little bit with a cap on FanDuel to kind of get around that negative leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be pretty easy to do that.
Yeah, I would think so, because it's not like, they've lost a ton. It's not like they're the highest owned stack either there. So the Marlins would be the other side, and you have a little bit of some positive leverage. It's leverage, of course, right? But they're pretty much down there at the bottom as far as where we have them projected. So if you are getting to them, I imagine it's going to be a small single-digit percentage point.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in the Jacob Junis side of this one. This is going to be another larger stand for me on DK. He's 8,500, second most leverage in the top pitchers tool. But Mike Clevenger above it against Milwaukee, I do have some concerns, actually. And I think Milwaukee's just a better offense in that ballpark in Milwaukee as opposed to in Miami. So I'm looking at Jacob Junis as a guy that I'm just rostering. San Francisco's always found a way to extract the absolute most they could out of pitchers. And so far this season, a 2.6 ERA, 0.97 whip for Jacob Junis. He's got some really decent stuff. He always has. I've always liked Jacob Junis. Didn't like facing him for the Minnesota Twins for the most part. But it's a guy that I think just has a lot of utility on today's slate. I think he's got some upside against a Miami team that, you definitely have some concerns. They're a better lineup than they've been in years past, but not having Jazz Chisholm in that lineup is just gigantic. So I see John Birdie leading off. You got, some guys in Jesus Aguilar and Avisel Garcia who have been better hitters in recent years, but have just been way, way down as so far this season. And then you get in the back half of that lineup with like Jacob Stallings, 23.6% K percentage. That's actually one of the lower ones amongst the catchers that they've had on this team. So that's kind of a bummer. But Luke Williams, 19%. That's the guy who strikes out the least other than Miguel Rojas, who's one of the best at avoiding strikeouts in all of baseball. I just find this Marlins team overall to have 4 or 5 bats that are pretty easy to rack up some Ks on. And Jacob Junis, just around a 19% strikeout rate. But at 3%, there's always that opportunity for a spike. And he's been around a 21% guy for his career. He had a 24.4% K percentage last season. Pitching to contact a little bit more here. He's been getting by pretty luckily, with that 2.68 ERA. I definitely expect negative regression, but not against Miami in this ballpark.
All right, so let's move to Kansas City. We got to give a shout out to Jordan Lockhart, the real Jordan.
Unbelievable.
All right? Jordan Klein is just celebrating money he won. Jordan Lockhart is giving money back via Super Chat. You see the difference, Lindquist?
Jordan Klein is living dude bro chill life in his castle over the
Not Frank
over the
Castle,
harbor,
right?
living his life. And Jordan Lockhart is in the trenches every single day as a warrior amongst the men, putting down absolute money in order to help us all continue to make the best content possible. Jordan Lockhart, the real hero. Jordan Klein, just a poser.
Love that. There's nothing more I nor anyone else can add to that, sir. We move to Kansas City, where we actually now, the first time, have some weather concerns. So you want to play meteorologist or you want to stick to giving out fantasy advice? It's up to you.
I have no concern for this game. It's going to play.
Okay. So with that said, Houston. I mean, we've got a big opportunity here to work around some negative leverage because they are the most owned stack, right? Let's start there because of Heasley, and we'll get to Valdez in a second and the Royals in that backdrop here. But come on, I mean, Houston, we have them projected as the top stack. They are clearly the most negatively leveraged, but even on this 9-game slate on DK, it's at 5.3. Sometimes we have a team that's like -10 or -12 that's separated themselves from the pack. Houston has not. So if you really like Houston and you're with the field here, you could probably cap them, still lose a little leverage, but not be at that 18.8.
Yeah, it's a team you should still find some exposure to. Think about Cincinnati, how popular they are. And I'm going to be way under on all of those bats outside of Pham, a little bit closer to it, considering he's the one under-owned piece and batting third there. I just find this offense to be so much more potent, so much more appealing. And you can kind of find some ways to reduce a little bit of the ownership in a way you can't relate with Cincinnati. You get Gurriel sub 12%, 2,800 on DraftKings now, 2,800 for one of the best contact guys. It's been brutal. I'm not trying to defend him, but he's a guy that has shown historically to be a lot better hitter than that. And now all the way down to 2,800. And now you're also getting low ownership on it. I'm going to sign up for that. Jeremy Pena, one of the best young rookies in baseball, 4,500, 7-hole, pay up to be contrarian pretty much every slate. And Chas McCormick in the 8-hole. I never roster Martin Maldonado. I pretty much never, ever do in the 9-hole. It's a 1-8 type stack. But I mean, if you're not going to roster Dubon, who, I mean, I'm just shocked to kind of see what kind of ownership he's getting. 2,300, sure, it allows you to get a lot of those guys at the top end, the Kevin Gausmans, the Lucas Giolitos, and you kind of need some of those salary savings. I'm going to undercut that, and I'm going to be getting to a lot of the Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. Just this whole back half of the lineup is going relatively underutilized. So I'm finding ways to get to a lot of 4 through 8.
Does that do anything for you on the other side, or are you just ignoring Heasley as much as possible?
No, I'm not rostering Heasley.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's at the bottom.
Ronald Weasley. Jonathan
he doesn't even have
Weasley.
A percentage point. He doesn't even have a 10th.
4.66 ERA, 1.76 whip. Looking at his pitch mix, 44.4% hard hit percentage, 505 expected slugging, 11.1% K percentage with an 18% walk rate. There's no doubt that there's no question that this should be a team that we have interest in Houston. Everybody else has interest in them too. But I do think that there's, with the Gurriel, the Pena, the McCormick, that's 3 guys that I'm not shying away from whatsoever. So at least they exist, as opposed to look at the quality of hitter you get by going to Cincinnati. It's against Patrick Corbin and he's terrible, but Cincinnati's just getting so much more ownership up and down that lineup. So unless you're rostering Almora, which I just never like to do, that's a weird feeling, but I like getting to a lot more of these Houston bats than I do Cincinnati. That's the team that I like. That's a little chalkier.
And look, Heasley is getting negative leverage. After all of that, he's still a negative leverage pitcher. So there's just no reason whatsoever. Framber on the other side, though, let's look at the cost. Clearly a differential as far as what you're paying on FanDuel, the 10-4 versus DK, the 9-4. So $1,000 difference here, but he's projected to be a pretty good pitcher today on the slate as expected against that Royals lineup and some really strong positive leverage as well. It's just a matter of what you're doing with that.
Yeah, Framber Valdez, the southpaw that just has some of the craziest numbers. This launch angle, every time I look at it, is just, it makes me giggle. Negative 3.8 degree launch angle. The ball is going straight into the ground with everybody who faces him. And this is just not a quality offense. I do think Framber Valdez has some definite utility with the positive leverage, 7.3%. Another guy at 9,400. These are kind of your paths. And maybe I should have been a little bit more clear about this earlier, but Kevin Gausman and Lucas Giolito just kind of stand out as guys that I want to get to regardless. But Kyle Gibson against the Angels, there's an opportunity to undercut that at 26.5%. I'm definitely undercutting Zach Plesac. That's a guy that I'm just not really going to be going to up against Baltimore, who's at 13.4%. He's getting into a couple. Zach Gallen, I really, really like, but he's popular 20.7%. That opens up a lot of opportunity on DraftKings to dip into the Valdez, the Junises. Yeah. Clevenger, I have a little bit of concern about, but I get it. He's the most positively leveraged guy to get to in the tool. And then Eric Lauer, who's garnering some attention, but probably not enough based on what we've seen out of him so far this season. So I'm definitely on the Framber Valdez against Kansas City, high floor, high ceiling type option, a higher ceiling than a guy like him who just doesn't really have the K rate to compete with some of these other guys, 19.5%. Who it's just not all that good, but he could pitch 7 strong in this one. It really wouldn't surprise me. So definitely a high floor, maybe not as high of a ceiling option, but if the other guys have struggles whatsoever, he could definitely take the cake.
All right, let's go to Milwaukee because that's a good segue now to talk about both Clevenger and Lauer, who Lauer has been brought up a couple of times before you just mentioned him, but both are super positive leverage pitchers. I mean, look, Clevenger, based on what we have, as far as where he's projected to finish as a top 2, the positive leverage, the least amount of ownership that you're getting, or less amount of ownership you're getting, compared to the top 2. But just on the surface, he seems to be one of the best guys you can get to tonight.
Eric Lauer. Yeah.
No, Clevenger.
What? Oh, Clevenger. No, I have concerns about
you're going to have to work that field with Lauer more, is my point.
Yeah. I'm probably going to be getting much more to the Lauer side of this one as I'm finishing everything up on my end. 20 minutes to lock, by the way, for anybody keeping track of everything there. I just think the Milwaukee lineup going up. It's just very difficult for me to want to roster a lot of Mike Clevinger. This is a guy I've had a back and forth relationship going back to his Cleveland days. He still has a Cleveland picture on DK. That's kind of fascinating, but 95, 91, 75 pitches that we saw last time out against Philly. I think they're going to just take it easy on him. It's been a long time since we've seen Mike Clevinger. You got activated, and I don't really know what to make of the pitch count. This is not the easiest situation to just be inserted on the road in Milwaukee. Some decent lefties in not just Yelich, but you've got from the right side, Tyrone Taylor's just been raking of late. There we go. I was able to speak. I feel a little bit more confident that Eric Lauer is the positive leverage guy that I'm looking for, as opposed to Mike Clevinger. Don't really know what to make of him. I think, obviously there's no real crazy ownership going his direction, 5.6%, but I'm definitely more of the Eric Lauer in this spot kind of guy.
So, I mean, you can be over the field to Clevinger, under the field to Lauer, and still gain leverage and still be more to Lauer than Clevinger, right?
You totally could. You totally could. But what do we expect Mike Clevinger's pitch count to be here right out of the gate?
Or what's it going to be capped at?
Yeah. I mean, he had a rehab assignment. 80? I'm going through 85? Trying to find how many he had. It's just hard for me to imagine he's going to see
look at that.
75, 80 pitches. Yeah.
95, 91, first two that came off the IL from May. So,
yeah. So I'm saying I have major concerns on the pitch count. The matchup's not exactly ideal. And I know he's the most positively leveraged pitcher, but I think that's kind of embracing the risk. And he's only 5.6% owned. And if you're in the camp that thinks Mike Clevinger is good to go, you would obviously want to get to more than 5.6% at 8,800. But the pitch count and everything else just kind of makes me feel like I am much more inclined to take those shares and just put them to work on Junis, Valdez, Lauer, guys that I just think I'm more confident are going to be able to pitch further into the game.
All right. So the final two games here, we're going to jam them in before lock, of course. FanDuel only, meaning we're going to insert these final two games on the FanDuel slate. And looking at it here, just kind of starting again with the pitching matchup, Kirby Perez on the other side in Texas, Seattle. Let's just start with Kirby. Let's start with both of these guys on the mound and kind of work, because Seattle's not projected to score much. Texas kind of a little bit on the lower end as well.
George Kirby's a stud. I like this guy a lot. Now, 50% hard hit percentage, whatever. This is like a very early sample size that we're getting here for him. But the strikeout stuff, I'm pretty sure is really, really real. And he's 24 years old. There were props hanging around like 5.5 strikeouts for him his last outing. And that was just a smash. Like, you just want to be smashing some of these home run props these strikeout props that are too low on this guy. High 90s fastball, slider, changeup combination mixed in. 25.9% K percentage now in his early career. I'm just very bullish on this pitcher. He's a guy that I just kind of believe is going to be very, very good. And you look at the FanDuel slate, he's 8K. And it gives you a completely different build than some of these other guys. He's going to be lower owned on that spot, but George Kirby's just a pitcher that I believe in, that I really, really like. And there's no way that I'm not going to be over this number. 8K for him for the FanDuel slate. Give me all of that you got.
Yeah, and the other side of that would be, well, what are you doing on the other side? Let me just ask you that.
Martin Perez is just defied. If there's one pitcher that I don't understand how different he is from year to year. Martin Perez this year is absurd. 1.42 ERA. For FanDuel purposes, he continues to put up quality starts. Let me count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive quality starts now for Martin Perez with a 1.42 ERA. The Southpaw dude, I mean, this Seattle team has some bats. You have Julio Rodriguez, who's starting to come along for the ride for everybody here. But I just don't find Seattle to be that appealing. They have a 3.6 implied run total, compared to Texas 3.9. I definitely still like Kirby a lot, so don't get me wrong. I just don't find these offenses to be things that I'm going to be getting to at all. And Martin Perez, if you're just trying to, roster a guy, the Ks are not going to be nearly what they are for the other guys in that range. And that's kind of the major issue. But with the quality start win bonus, Texas, maybe it's just a spot where I have to look at Martin Perez a little bit differently than I have in years past. 318 expected slugging, sub 6% walk rate. This used to be a gas can, and he is not that anymore. So 20.2% K percentage. A lot of pitchers are finding success here in 2022 that haven't before. He is at the top of the list. So Martin Perez, if you got a couple shares on FanDuel, it's weird to say it, but I'm actually okay with it.
Both of these stacks are super low owned, and there's a little bit of positive leverage you can get with Seattle. I just don't know how much you're going to tempt fate with both of these pitchers being referred to individually by you as studs.
Yeah, they're just good. I'm not rostering the offenses here.
All right. Then we end the final with the final game here. That's fine.
Yeah,
Colorado, Atlanta. What?
Saving you time.
Well, it's fine. I'm just going to go shower after this. What are you going to do? Play golf?
DFS. What are you talking about? I've got this. I've got NBA
Isn't your stuff
tonight.
In already? Oh, yeah. And see, Jordan's giving you that. You need to be on screen when you're doing that, man. I'm sorry.
What's he doing?
I can't replicate that. Can you put yourself on screen? Now that the joke is killed, the timing is ruined. But next time that comes, we need to see Jordan physically making fun of Eric.
What'd you do? I didn't even see it. I was focused on doing my job correctly as opposed to being an ass, an absolute ass hat. Literally an ass hat wearing an ass hat today. Look at you.
Bluestone.
No, not you. I'm talking Jordan.
Oh. I was going to say, this is a reputable club here in PA.
Baby, you're fine. You couldn't do anything to hurt me.
I love you too. Okay. So Colorado, Atlanta, and we continue to just deal with Coors, right? And everything that comes with it.
Sure do.
Projected run totals, et cetera, et cetera. But Charlie Morton, Ryan Feltner on the mound here. So we're going to get to these stacks in a second. It's just how fast you want to blow through the pitching matchup.
The pitching matchup, I mean, these are two good pitchers. These are not necessarily the guys that you want to be looking at going into Coors with.
Right.
For those who aren't acquainted with Ryan Feltner, he might be a really good pitcher. He's 25 years old, had a brief stint in the bigs last season, but we're seeing a 28.6% K percentage now for him in the early going. First real time getting a crack at it. Last year, I'm throwing 142 pitches, his 8.21 expected ERA. I'm throwing all of that out the window. Mid 90s fastball guy, slider, curve, changeup don't all look all that appealing, but the fastball is the plus pitch. We know Coors Field, that can be problematic. And of course you have an Atlanta lineup on the other side, but it's still a team that's just getting a lot of attention. 20.6% ownership share for FanDuel purposes. That's just too much for me going up against a pitcher that I think might actually be pretty good long-term. So Ryan Feltner, just serviceable enough for me to want to be lower on this Atlanta team, even with their 18.5% top stack percentage. It's an absurd number, but I'm going to be well underneath the field for FanDuel. Give me the Colorado side more against Morton. We know Morton's a good pitcher. There's no doubt about it, but that's going to be what makes people shy away from it. They're the most positively leveraged team to get to on FanDuel, just a 2.5% ownership share. You know the guys that you want to get to from this side. It's really not that hard to figure out. You're going to get to the likes of Connor Jobe, Charlie Blackmon, my arch nemesis, Brandon Rogers, now batting cleanup. This dude, missed out on a triple home run game in Coors the other night on my bench in Dynasty, but whatever. I'm going to roster him today against Morton. It'll all be okay. Maybe it might be, it might not be.
Yeah. Ozuna out today. So I mean, is there any concern? Maybe this does factor into your comment about getting to a little less of Atlanta, but we've had 3 games here already in Colorado, and the last 2 combined less amount of runs than the first one. 3, 6, and extras too. Granted, any game at any point you can explode, but do you ever look at that recency and say, yeah, Atlanta just hasn't put up these big fireworks that are expected today, despite the pitching matchup?
Yeah, we're concerned about today, and I'm always talking positive leverage. I want to keep everything as much in the moment as possible, as opposed to looking at all the what happened yesterday. Well, if you run it back again today in the same circumstances, I would still be underweight to Atlanta, what their ownership was on yesterday's slate, regardless of the results, whether they scored 15 runs or not. Now, the field tends to, and part of why we play DFS and why it's so fun is that the field is going to make certain decisions based off of what just happened. They're going to have more of the recency bias built in. It's been less and less and less as years have gone on. The field's gotten a little bit sharper with things, but it's pretty incredible. That's the same thing you're seeing with the Angels today, where it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I play Mike Trout in single entry? Why wouldn't I play some of these bats that are going underrepresented from San Francisco just because, it's a bad ballpark? Like, there's certain things where you can find little bits and pieces of edge. And Atlanta, there's just really so much duplication that you're running into. And I'm against Beltner. Like, could he get blown up? Absolutely he could. But you give me the other 10 games on this slate, or the other, 21 teams that exist on the FanDuel slate on an 11-game slate, I'm much more inclined to fade the team that's at 21% across the board every single time.
Awesome. At Eric Lindquist, at Shander Show. What's it, Jordan Klein? Do you have
Jordan Decline?
Oh, okay.
Not to be confused with Jordan Incline.
Should we just end on that? Like cold ending?
Yeah.
Let's just cold end. Get out of here.
It's good.
Hey, thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, do all the things you know to do already, and tell people. All right? We don't ask much. When you see people coming in saying, why are they talking about a guy that's not on the slate? Remind them to also hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. And look, thanks to Eric Lindquist. He puts up with a lot of shit, mostly from me.